Hello everyone and welcome to Slash Film Daily for April 3rd, 2019. This is Slash Film Editor-in-Chief Peter Soretta, and joining me on today's podcast is Slash Film Senior Writer Ben Pearson.
Hey, what's going on?
So we are still here in Las Vegas at CinemaCon, the annual gathering of movie theater owners. Studios come here to show off their slates for the next year plus, and we just got out of the Disney presentation. This is probably the most anticipated presentation of this year's convention. And we were really wondering if they were going to show footage from Star Wars and Avengers. They did on one of those fronts.
They also showed one very, very, very quick shot of Star Wars, of Finn, Rey, Chewie, and Poe getting into the Millennium Falcon cockpit. But that was it. So that was literally all we saw. And they were like, sorry, no Star Wars footage. So.
I was taking notes, and I totally missed that. A lot of people were wondering how... Oh, we should probably say this up front, that they did show footage from Avengers Endgame, like probably 5 or 6 minutes, and I know some people want to go into that movie completely clean, so we're going to put that at the end of this podcast along with our what they ended on, the finale, which was a 20-minute segment, or 15 minutes?
17 minutes.
17-minute segment of Toy Story 4. So we'll put those at the end of this broadcast, so if you don't want to watch those, you listen to them, you don't have to, but I would say that both of them are from the first 20 minutes of the movies. Yeah. So there really isn't much in terms of spoilers, especially in Avengers. It's most of that is in the trailer. But okay, let's. A lot of people were wondering how Disney was going to talk about Fox with this presentation, and this presentation opened up with footage of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, which began this montage that interspliced Fox footage and Disney footage together, one happy family. You'd see clips of like Simpsons next to Guardians, next to Avatar, next to Star Wars, next to Deadpool. What did you think the message was here?
I mean, the message that they're trying to send is we are one big happy family. Everything is going to be fine,
except for those people who lost their jobs.
Exactly. So it's a little hard to swallow seeing stuff like that. Everything cut into this like sizzle reel where it's like, sweeping dramatic music and everything is supposed to be great, but this is a huge shift in Hollywood, and they're treating it as just like, oh, it's like this little thing. We just like picked up a new friend. We got our friends at Fox, and it's like, yeah, you absorbed an entire studio. It's a lot different than they're making it out to be. Yeah.
Although, I don't know, it was exciting seeing, Alien next to Star Wars, next to, I don't know, as a fan of films, I do understand how this is running as a business, kind of, as an industry thing. It kind of sucks. But I think many people would have been very exciting seeing the sizzle reel. Okay, so Alan Horn came out, and he's kind of the head of the film, and he made a big pitch for Fox Searchlight because they're celebrating 25 years.
I think so, yeah.
And they've won dozens of awards. They basically showed the sizzle reel showcasing what they have done, and it really seems like Disney. I mean, Disney's very happy with this acquisition of Fox as a whole, but it seems like they are really happy to get their hands on Fox Searchlight.
Yeah, for award stuff in particular, I think they said something like they've won 39 Oscars or something over the past 25 years. So I'm sure that Disney's looking to have that prestige in the bank as well.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. They did at the beginning of this presentation. They were like, "Sorry guys, there's not going to be any Star Wars here." Which I think is funny because they didn't they were kind of doing things in an order, and you'd think they would get to the start, but they wanted to kind of temper our expectations early on. We're going to get to see that next week with Celebration, anyways. They did go into Endgame. We're going to skip that for now. We'll get back to it. Then they went into Fox, which was a surprise. We didn't. This was pitched as a Walt Disney Pictures presentation. Fox was not supposed to be here. And they showed us a bunch of Fox stuff, starting with Dark Phoenix, the Simon Kinberg X-Men film. They showed us, it was kind of like a trailer-ish.
Yeah, extended trailer, I suppose.
Yeah, we got to see like the X-Men going into space to save, some stranded astronauts, and that's how Jean is engulfed with,
space
whatever
energy
it is,
or something. Yes.
And going through like Jean changing, losing control, bad things happening, it makes her feel good. The whole storyline that we've seen from the comics and already seen before in the movies.
Yes.
What did you think of this? I do want to highlight there was a cool shot. I'm not sure if this is in the trailers of Magneto like controlling like a bunch of machine guns like in the air.
It is. Yeah, it's a really cool shot.
What did you think of the footage?
I'm kind of lukewarm on the X-Men franchise as a whole right now. I feel like even though they're bringing in Simon Kinberg, who's never directed one of these movies before, he's been like a dominant voice in this franchise for a long time, and I would just prefer for them to wipe the slate clean, and it seems like they might be doing that afterwards, because whoever came out and introduced this footage said something about, this is the perfect epic send-off for our X-Men series, which to me sort of implies like, this is the last time that you're going to see this iteration of these characters,
And he also said, like, Xavier needs to get the X-Men together for one final mission, too, which also sends us a signal that this could be the last in this franchise, or this series.
But, like, in terms of the actual footage itself, it looks fine. It looks better than X-Men Apocalypse, because that movie had, like, a really cheap look to it, and this doesn't look cheap. Like, the visual effects, which is what a lot of people come to these movies for, looked pretty decent, to my eye. What did you think about it?
I don't know. I feel like I was a huge fan of the X-Men comics in the 90s, and most of the stuff I was reading was X-Men at that time. And, the Dark Phoenix saga was one of the highlights of that, and I feel like I should be super excited for this, and for some reason I'm not. Maybe it's I've heard about production problems, and, maybe I'm more excited about the X-Men finally getting to be in the MCU, and does this really matter? It's kind of like, why would I watch season 2 of Punisher when it's canceled? It kind of feels like that, maybe? I don't know.
I think there's definitely a little bit of that. It'll be interesting to see if there's enough fans of this, of James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender and Jennifer Lawrence to actually come out and make this like a huge worthwhile thing for Disney. I mean, they've obviously sunk the money into spending marketing campaign, trailers, all that stuff, so they're not just going to dump this on Disney Plus, but I don't know.
Yeah, and there was it was interesting, they put this timeline on the screen that showed all the Walt Disney Pictures releases for the next year, and it was already like this crowded timeline of logos, from left to right. And then they added the Fox films to that mix. It was like a jumble of... It was a mess.
It was a lot of stuff. And I think they said, like, we might be shuffling some of these release dates around.
Yeah.
So I guess expect to see that pretty soon.
So Fox also were hyping up the... What is the film called? Stuber?
Yes.
And this is a film that premiered at South by Southwest. We did cover it. Actually, we're quoted in the trailer that they showed here. Meredith Borders had a quote in here. This is the story with Dave Bautista and Kumail Nanjiani.
Yes.
And he plays an Uber driver. Dave Bautista plays a police officer who needs to take over the Uber car for his purposes, I guess?
He's like trying to solve a case, and he can't drive because he has like eye surgery or something like that, which I don't think they showed in the trailer, but that's the reason that he gets into an Uber, is because he can't drive himself. Yeah.
And they have this kind of relationship where I feel like Kumail is playing like the weak one, the non-heroic, and he's kind of being forced to go outside of his comfort zone in this situation. I don't know, it looks like a lot of fun. I know people liked it at South by. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it looked really funny. I'm excited to see the dynamic that these two have together. There's a really funny moment where Batista's character is fighting with somebody, and Kumail Nanjiani's character Stu is like standing there with a gun trained on them, and Batista's like, shoot, pull the trigger or whatever, and he tries and can't, so he just throws the handgun at the bad guy, but the bad guy catches it in midair, hits Batista in the head, and then throws it back at Kumail and hits him in the head with it. And I just thought that was such a fun little moment that I've never really seen that play out in any sort of filmed medium before. So I was very entertained.
I like that we live in a world where Dave Bautista is becoming a big star.
Yeah.
What we were really shocked to see, we didn't have this on our list of expectations at all. It was like a trailer or something from Ford versus Ferrari, and this is a movie from James Mangold, and it stars Matt Damon
and Christian Bale.
Yeah, and a bunch of actually a ton, like an ensemble cast. Like they had this whole montage of basically he's getting hired to put together this. To basically create a car, the fastest car ever known to man, to win this
race, like the Le Mans race or something like that. It's like it's a period piece. I think it's based on a true story.
Yeah, it
is.
Yeah,
it's like a classic sort of racing story. You know, like movies like Days of Thunder and all that, like NASCAR movies. But this is like it's a different type of racing. It's like more. It's not NASCAR at all, but it's Le Mans or Le Mans or however you pronounce that. It's like super high speed stuff, long distances. Damon at one point,
and you race at night.
Yeah, Damon at one point says, you know, it's not about speed, it's about survival. You're going to get exhausted in the car, you're going to get hungry in the car. They're trying to figure out like ways to design the fastest vehicle for their team to win this racing competition.
Yeah. And I don't know, there was a lot of cool moments here. It definitely seems like one of those ensemble cast true story, a fun movie. Like it seems like it. I mean, it might even have some like award potential. I feel like there's some like performance stuff that they were kind of showcasing.
Yeah, and Bale is doing his what sounds like his normal accent, so it's not like it's not a transformative performance in the way that a lot of his other stuff has been. But it's still really cool to see him and Matt Damon share the screen together. There's a lot of like tight polos and cool sunglasses, and you know, like the fashion is kind of interesting. And I mean, it looks to me like sort of like a classic Fox movie, like something that would come out in November and be in the awards conversation, and as like an alternative to a lot of the big tentpole stuff that might be coming out around that time.
Yeah. And then they switched gears to Disney. Sean Bailey
no
came
pun
out.
Intended.
Yeah. and they were promoting Aladdin, the Guy Ritchie live-action adaptation of the Disney animated classic that, you know, stars Will Smith and a couple other people. This has some songs by the La La Land songwriters, right? I know everybody's been kind of making fun of how Will Smith looks as the genie. And they showed a scene that started with basically them going into the cave to retrieve the lamp. And Aladdin and his monkey Abu.
Yes.
And you know, this cave looks epic. It looks big, and they're told not to, you know, be tempted by any of the treasures. And they're climbing this big pillar to get the lamp. And of course, the monkey grabs for a gem, and all hell breaks loose. But eventually, Aladdin gets out. Aladdin gets the lamp. He rubs the lamp. Will Smith's genie comes out, and at first he like looks unlike the genie we've seen because he's like dark and shadow, and he's like talking like Batman almost.
Yeah, I think that moment is in the trailer, or one of the most recent trailers. And then it just goes right into "Never Had a Friend Like Me," the song that is so well known from the original movie. What did you make of this version of the song? Because it's like Will Smith going full Will Smith singing the song. Do you know the original one well, and how did you think it compared to this one?
I mean, I know it as well as anybody who grew up with Disney classics and are in the parks, the theme parks all the time, and hear it like, you know, in parades and whatever. But the only thing that really hit me as like very different is there's a part where Will Smith starts rapping. Yeah. Obviously.
Yes. There's like some beatboxing and a rap breakdown at one point. It's like very, you know, this is exactly what you would expect from a Will Smith genie.
Yeah, but, you know, I've been kind of very cynical and skeptical of this movie, and I was very impressed by this musical sequence. It's kind of crazy. It's almost presented in like a one shot where like it really is an adaptation of the animated sequence where like things are just coming in like
it's like little vignettes of like crazy scenarios where Will Smith's genie is like taking on the personas of different characters and like interacting with Aladdin, and these, you know, there's big dancers and fireworks going off. It's like the
he's
whole
making
thing.
Abu play the drums, and his giant hand is now puppeteering Aladdin, and like it's this really epic like sequence. What did you think overall?
I mean, a few words in the song are changed, and like you mentioned, you know, there were a few of those sort of Will Smith style additions, but overall, it sort of it didn't have like the actual singing performance didn't have the same energy that Robin Williams brought to it in terms of like the up tempo. It seemed like a little bit slowed down, but the visuals were, you know, out of this world in terms of like just being big and bold, and like this is, you know, they have to go big and bold to capture those vignette-y sort of sequences from the original, and it looks like they did about as good as
I think
as good as they could do.
I think if you look at Beauty and the Beast, and I know Beauty and the Beast was a huge financial success, but in terms of it capturing the animated sequences, like the Be Our Guest, I feel like it failed miserably, and this actually feels like I'm not sure it warrants that it needs. It's
you don't know if it
justifies its purpose, but at least it looked good, unlike the Beauty and the Beast stuff.
Yeah.
And it ended with like a kind of sizzle reel of clips, which we saw like a Bigfoot chase through the city, very Guy Ritchie style.
Yeah.
But are you any more excited or any less excited after seeing this?
I feel maybe a little bit more confused after seeing this. I feel like everything I'd seen so far sort of led me to believe that this is going to be essentially a shot-for-shot kind of thing. And that's basically what it is, but the more I see and the more samey it is, the more I'm just like, why? Why does this need to happen? But I guess, you know, putting that aside, maybe it'll be an entertaining time at the movies. I don't know. I will say the genie, you know, in those pictures and the early looks at Will Smith with the blue and all of that, it looked laughable, and it didn't strike me as odd at all in context. Did his look bother you at all, or seem strange to you at all?
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Not in like live action on the big screen. For some reason, it just didn't. And also it helps that he's being kind of caricatured into like all these different shapes and things.
Yeah, he's constantly moving and
it's very animated.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ridiculous why we call these live action adaptations, especially the next one, The Lion King. We got to see a whole scene from this. This is the scene where Simba wakes up early in the morning, and then he steps all over his dad and wakes him up because his dad had promised him that he could go on patrol with him that day. And he brings Simba up to like that big rock overlooking the savannah and basically tells him that, you know, everything that light touches that you can see is my responsibility, and one day it's going to be yours.
This is almost word for word from the original movie.
So you've seen this scene, and it also has a scene where Zazu shows up and gives them a recap of what's going on, and they kind of scare him. But I feel like, you know, we had seen that trailer, the initial trailer, which didn't really have them talking or anything like this. Now that we're seeing them talking, it still looks like a Disney nature film, and I'm actually kind of excited about this. I know, especially this being a scene that is almost word for word what it was in the animated film. I'm not sure it needs to exist again, but it's interesting, and I feel like it's beautiful.
Yeah, I feel like instead of, you know, whereas Aladdin is like you're being almost hit over the head with the visual effects, this is like it seems more subtle because every frame of the entire movie is a visual effect in The Lion King. It's all fake, but it looks... I mean, there's a shot of antelopes leaping through the plains or whatever that 100% just looks like it comes out of a documentary. Yeah. And the lions are like walking around in the background, and you're like, holy shit, I mean, this looks fully real. So I think...
I would argue that it all looks fully real.
Yeah,
to me,
I just think that, you know, this movie, it justifies its own existence in terms of the technology, and like at least you're seeing, you know, this amazing visual spread, and it's not crazy stuff like fireworks going off and Will Smith dancing around. You know, it's things that are supposed to be believable in the real world. So I think there's more of a reason to be excited about The Lion King than there is to be excited about Aladdin. But that's just me. I don't know.
It is weird that there isn't one cohesive kind of ideology or vision for these Disney animated or live action adaptations of these animated films. There's not that there's like a Marvel style guide, but there is kind of like, they feel kind of like of the same universe, and not that these take place in the same universe, but they really do feel like different filmmakers are tackling it in very different ways.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is good and bad, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, next up was Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. They showed us kind of this behind-the-scenes featurette that kind of gave us a look at the story. What is the story here?
So, the movie poses the question, is Maleficent good enough to be Aurora's mother? And I did not see Maleficent, did you?
I did not.
Okay, wow, yeah, so neither of us. So, I mean...
And I'm a big Disney fanatic, so that's a...
Yeah, this is just one that I've missed. But it looks like... from what we can tell, Maleficent and Aurora, they love each other, but there's this big divide between them, and Prince Philip comes to ask Aurora to marry him, and that sort of kicks off the action of this movie. Aurora and Maleficent get invited to the castle to meet the king and queen. The queen is played by Michelle Pfeiffer, and there's like a big rivalry dynamic going on between Pfeiffer and Angelina Jolie, who is back to play Maleficent again.
And the queen has ulterior motives of why she wants the marriage to happen, and we see this whole scene where Maleficent finds out about that and kind of gets angry and kind of flips the table.
She tries to take over the mother role, and Maleficent is not happy about that. So I don't know, visually it's very dark and moody, and there's dark shots of a thorny forest at night and all of the kind of stuff that you would expect from as like a visual continuation from the original movie, from what I've seen of it. What did you think about the overall? Are you like... I don't know.
This is not a film that's kind of like on my excitement meter. Yeah. So it might be because I haven't seen the first one. So I'm not sure this made me any more or less excited.
Yeah, it didn't wow me enough where I'm like, holy crap, I got to go watch the original right now so I can catch up and be ready for this movie. But maybe people who've seen the first film will be really looking forward to this. I don't know. So
after that, they showed us 17 minutes of Toy Story 4. But before we talk about that, let's rewind and let's get to Avengers Endgame, because I feel like people probably want to learn about that without hearing about 17 minutes from Toy Story 4. So some of you might want to stop there. Anyways, they showed a never-before-seen glimpse of Avengers Endgame, and this kind of starts with... so we're going to describe this and give a reaction, but this is from the, I think, first few minutes of the movie.
It seems like it, yes.
Captain Marvel has arrived, as we saw at the end of Captain Marvel, and she basically says that she's going to go and kill Thanos. Mm-hmm. And the team are basically trying to talk her into working with them, the Avengers, to accomplish this task. Nebula says that she knows where Thanos is because she was around all the time when Thanos would talk about his plan and what he would do after the plan. Mm-hmm. And Rocket shows like this hologram of the galaxy and where the planet they think he is. Yeah,
Nebula says that whenever she would always ask him where they would go when his plan was complete, and his answer was always the same, and it was a place called the Garden. And I think it's Don Cheadle's Rhodey makes some joke about how, oh great, Thanos has like a retirement home or something like that.
Yeah.
And then as you were mentioning, Rocket, sort of shows that on this hologram where like 2 days earlier a massive power surge in the galaxy happened on this distant planet. So that's where Thanos has showed up.
Yeah, so they make a plan to go there. They want to get the stones so they could potentially fix everything.
Yeah.
And so, but they're like, why would this time be any different than last time?
Yeah.
And Captain Marvel basically says, this time you have me, which is kind of badass.
Yeah.
And then we see the scene from the end of that last trailer where Thor stands up and grabs the hammer through the air and says, I like this one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And Cap says, let's go get this son of a bitch. It's like this really big
the music moment. Swells, and the Avengers theme swells. We cut to the spaceship, the Benatar?
I think so, yeah.
Flying with the that whole Avengers team. Rocket asks who here hasn't gone to space yet, and like most of them raise their hands. And he basically warns them against throwing up in his ship.
Yeah.
And they jump to, I guess, like light speed,
light jump, whatever they call it in the Marvel universe. But
yeah. So, what did you think of this footage?
I'm excited about it. I loved the post credits scene of Captain Marvel where it shows her interacting with them and sort of like reappearing after the pager and all of that, and just to see an extended version of that interaction, I'm very excited about it. I have no idea. I thought it was an interesting choice for them to show. Basically what amounted to a scene of a bunch of people standing around in a room talking to theater exhibitors who are presumably wanting to see some of the bigger moments of the movie in order to get excited enough to... But, this movie's so big, they know it's going to be huge.
It's going to be huge.
It's not like they need convincing, but it was
Didn't it just break, like, the the one-day ticket pre-sales record or something. Like, it slaughtered everything.
So, yeah, in terms of, like, the scene that they chose to show here, I thought it was an interesting choice. But I am excited about seeing it. What did you think about it?
You know, it didn't make me any more excited or any less excited. I feel like I kind of know where they're headed with this. It was cool to see the interactions of this group, especially with Captain Marvel there, and that's great. I just want to see them get to the garden, I guess. I'm not sure if the planet has a name or whatever. And I want to see that confrontation. That's what I'm excited for. And I'm Friday, I'm seeing some 20 minutes of footage from the Russo brothers for the junket. So hopefully I'll have more to report then. But yeah, no, it was very cool. I love all these characters. I love the humor. I love I think it's very interesting, the expectations of everybody that, like, they're gonna go and fight Thanos and get the stones back and correct everything. Mm-hmm. That's not happening.
I mean, it seems like it would be too easy because that's what everybody thinks is going to happen. And as we saw in Infinity War, they're looking to subvert people's expectations. So
for sure,
I'm curious to see, with all of the weight of 21 movies or whatever on this film's shoulders, how they're going to be able to deliver something that that surprises people. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah. So let's talk about Toy Story 4. They had the filmmaker. Was it Josh Cooley?
I think it was Jonas Rivera.
Jonas Rivera, yeah, he's produced stuff
like Inside Out, I think.
Yeah, and so he presented 17 minutes of this movie. We got to see the first 17 minutes of Toy Story 4. I think. Well, I'm not exactly sure what your opinion or what your expectations of Toy Story 4 are, but I think most of the Slash Film staff is kind of cynical on this and doesn't think there needs to be a fourth film at all. Like, third one kind of bookended it in a really great way, and even Jonas said on stage that, like, he acknowledged that, and he was like, we came up with a really good idea, and that idea is, what if we could take Woody out of his regular world and put him into a situation where he is questioning his own purpose.
Yeah.
And then they showed us this clip.
Opening of the movie. It's the first 17 minutes of the film, if we didn't say that.
Yeah, so if you don't want to listen to the first 17 minutes, hear a brief, recap of the first 17 minutes, then, tune out now. But how should we recap this? It starts 9 years ago with a flashback.
Okay, here's the thing. Let's just say what we thought about it in general, and then get into the details, so that way if people are curious about what our thoughts but don't want to hear the beat by beat, then they can know that, and then we'll get into it.
Okay.
So what did you think?
I was actually very impressed by this footage. Pixar knows how to do an opening of a movie, and they knew how to get me to invest. I had, they got me to care again. Yeah. And even though this is maybe an unnecessary another chapter to the story, I'm in.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm all the way in, but I have one foot in the door now. Whereas before I was on the I was on the outside and my back was to the door. But now I have one foot in. I feel like getting this movie seems to really want to get inside Woody's head and explore some things in the way that he looks at the world, maybe in a way that we haven't seen before. A little bit of the footage sort of felt like a rehash of the first Toy Story, where he's sort of on the outside looking in because of a new scenario. Obviously, in the first movie, it's the introduction of Buzz, but in this movie, it's his relationship to Bonnie, the new kid that he is serving and really cares a lot about. So if the movie stays focused on Woody and shows a growth trajectory for him that changes the character drastically from what we've seen before, then I think maybe it'll be all worth it in the end. But it really has to nail that for it to fully justify its existence, I think.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the actual footage itself. I guess it starts off between Toy Story 2 and 3.
Yeah, it says 9 years ago.
9 years ago. So we get to see the scene where Bo Peep, they lose Bo Peep. Mm-hmm. They mention that in 3, like in one line. And we actually get to see the scene where basically Andy's sister says that she doesn't need Bo Peep anymore.
Yeah,
so,
there's Bo Peep is part of a light fixture set, and somebody probably from Craigslist or something like that, comes to their house and buys that off of the family, and Molly, Andy's sister, is like, oh yeah, that's fine, I don't need this anymore. So Woody has one final goodbye with Bo Peep because there's like a rescue mission going on the side, a good classic sort of Pixar parallel storytelling kind of thing.
Which is crazy because I don't even think that rescue mission is needed. I guess it adds it subverts your expectations because you're worried about
RC who's trapped in a gutter outside during a rainstorm.
Yeah, but it has this really sad moment where Woody is saying goodbye to Bo Peep, and Woody is trying to save Bo Peep, but Bo Peep's basically like, I'm not Andy, so Yeah,
she's very zen about the whole thing. She knows, she says like, it's time for the next kid. Like, I'm ready to go, basically. And she actually like invites Woody to come with her. I mean, not in words, but her actions. She sort of like gestures for him. She says something along the lines of like, maybe, toys get lost all the time. Maybe implying that maybe you could get lost and come with me. But then Woody hears Andy's voice asking, where's Woody? I don't know where he is. So he knows that Andy still needs him, so he knows that he can't leave with Bo Peep. So that's what you're talking about, I think, is like that classic Pixar like tugging at the heartstrings, like getting you back in.
Totally.
When you think you're out.
And then we cut to the title sequence, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the first shot of that takes place like in the minutes that Toy Story 3 ends, with Bonnie playing with the toys.
Oh, it might be. I haven't seen the end of Toy Story 3 in so long. I need to go back and revisit that before this one. But
I might be wrong there, but like it shows her playing with the toys. Some time has passed.
Yeah.
And we kind of learned that Bonnie has not played with Woody at all that week. Mm-hmm. He's been kind of in the closet, the toy closet. She's played with all the other toys, Bullseye and Jessie and, the main characters. But Woody's kind of getting the shaft, and I think one of the toys kind of like questions him about it, and Woody's, everything's fine, but you could tell it really is.
And that's what I was talking about, where it sort of seems like a little bit of a rehash, like when Buzz came on the scene, all the other toys were sort of questioning Woody in that same kind of way. And it seems like he's reliving a little bit of that moment, but he does really care about Bonnie. You can tell that he has he's genuinely worried about her, and the whole thing in the first few minutes is that she goes off to kindergarten. Her
first day of kindergarten,
orientation technically, because there's like a week between orientation and the first day. So she goes to kindergarten, and Woody wants to go with her, but there's this new character called the Mayor, who is a female doll that is sort of running things in Bonnie's room, and she doesn't want Woody to go. She thinks that Bonnie can handle the situation on her own, but Woody is worried about her and wants to. He sort of like sneaks away he
stows away in her bag.
Yeah. So,
and she has a bag with like one of those clear fronts, so you can see Woody peeking out from the front. And she gets left at the kindergarten, and it's a very relatable first day at school where you're unsure, what's going to happen.
You don't know anybody. Yeah. She's sort of like shy and like, off to herself because she doesn't know what's going on.
And Bonnie is miserable. The kids don't care about her. Woody escapes the backpack to help her out, gathers up some supplies from the
arts
trash
and crafts. Can. Yes. Yeah.
But it was in the trash can, a lot of stuff from the trash can, and basically gets it to the table in front of her table without her knowing that they did this. And so Bonnie plays arts and crafts. They're doing an arts and crafts thing, and she creates Forky.
Yes,
this character that we've seen in the trailers.
Yes, and like so this completely like transforms her. She was miserable at school, but making this Forky character has really brightened up her day, and Woody sees how happy she is, and that makes him happy, and he's excited about Forky being a source of joy for Bonnie. And then Forky gets put in the backpack to come home, and Woody realizes that Forky is alive. And it's sort of like a weird moment. Like it's almost like a jump scare moment.
Yeah.
Because Woody doesn't think that Forky is alive, and then all of a sudden, like, his eyeball sort of moves, and then he, like, screams. So this is what you're talking about. It sort of opens up a lot of questions, right?
It does. It opens this whole can of worms of, like, what is the toy? What can be alive? What is sentient? And, like, she just created this thing out of a popsicle, or out of a spork and some
like
pipe hanger.
cleaners,
So then they get back to the...
Bonnie's
home,
room at the
and
house.
she throws the bag in the room, and Woody kind of introduced the other toys to Forky, who, I don't know, it's kind of creepy, actually.
Yeah, he just keeps saying the word trash over and over again because he's made from trash, and he seems to, like, have designs on going back to...
Yeah.
It's like Mordor. He just, like, wants to go back to the place that he came from. So he just tries to find a trash can and dives in to, like, return from whence he came, kind of thing.
And the funny thing is, he can barely walk because he's not even, like, made competently.
Right.
So, Woody is kind of, like, explaining to the toys that Forky is kind of critical to Bonnie getting adjusted to school. So they need to make sure that nothing happens to them. Right then, Forky, like, tries to commit suicide into the
into the trash can. Yeah.
So that's where it ends, right?
Yeah.
So I think you can see where we were coming from and our feelings about this footage. And they did mention that they're going on a road trip.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So in between that orientation day and when kindergarten starts, Bonnie's going to go on this road trip, and I'm assuming Forky and some of the toys are coming along for that ride, and that's how we get to that carnival and whatnot. Where that adventure brings us, I don't know. Obviously, Bo Peep comes back into the mix. We see the Mad Max version of her that we've seen advertised.
Yep.
I don't know. The story, to me, like, I am in more from this opening 17 minutes, but the pieces of the story I'm seeing from afar look like they don't look as smooth, like they don't look as well fine crafted of a story as Pixar usually has. Like, it really seems like usually with good Pixar films, it seems like everything is there for a reason, and it seems like they took 5 scripts and smashed them together. And I'm not like it could end up being good, but it doesn't seem like everything is saying the same theme.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, because most of Pixar's movies are seamless, even though they're written and rewritten, and there's tons of different iterations of the story and all of that, but by the time it gets to the final product, you can't, it always seems like this is how it was meant to be from the beginning. And I think you're right. I think from what we've seen with Toy Story 4, it feels a little bit more disjointed than some of the other Pixar stuff. I'm wondering if all of that will play better, watching it all the way through instead of just seeing these pieces out of context. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think there's enough here to at least get me interested in the movie. Yeah. Whereas before, I was actively angry that they were making it. Now,
I'm really curious of what Woody's journey is here. Yeah. What is the lesson he's going to learn from all this, and also how is reuniting with Bo Peep going to what effect is that going to have on him? Does she want to go back to be with the toys? Does she not? It seems like she's doing fine by herself. Mm-hmm. And what kind of effect is that going to have on, Woody's outlook in the world?
And what does this do for the future of this franchise? Because it seemed like the door was closed after Toy Story 3 for everything other than little shorts and sort of fun things to keep the characters alive from a franchise point of view that way. But is this going to reopen the door for more Toy Story movies down the line, or is this just a definitive ending all these years later because they found one single story that they wanted to tell? I don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know the answers to those questions. We will find out when that movie hits theaters later this summer sometime.
This summer, yes.
Which I got to start getting going on the summer movie wager. I'm not sure. Do you think Toy Story 4 is going to be number 2?
Yeah, I think so.
A definite lock in number 2. I got to figure that out. Okay, we've hit the end of this. We got to get going. We're going to see David Copperfield tonight, and yeah. So hopefully you are listening to this. We're going to have a podcast tomorrow for the Universal for the Paramount panel. Yeah. We did Universal already. So look forward to that. We'll have reactions from everything there. Maybe we'll get some Terminator. Hopefully, find out, see some first footage from that. So look forward to that. You can find all of our work at slashfilm.com. You can find this podcast, Slash Film Daily, published every weekday sometimes multiple times a day on slashfilm.com and all the popular podcast apps. You can send us feedback, comments, whatever you want to peter@slashfilm.com. And as always, head over to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating, write us a review, tell your friends, spread the word, and we will see you in a few hours.